to LITRPG Banter.
Hello, banter enthusiasts. Once again, it's me, CJ Timms, bringing you the internet's finest source of banter XP. Today, we are very lucky to have with us Sean Oswald, titan of the industry, as well as BJ Webster, or TheBusyBard, up-and-comer on Royal Road, who's really making a storm over there with his latest novel. Most people would know both of our author guests for today. Sean has written many books in the lit RPG genre, and his latest series, the Multiverse Series, follows Silas, Earth's last forerunner, fighting for humanity in a dangerous multiverse, and has had thousands of ratings and a devoted readership across 10 books now, with the latest installment having just dropped this month, Exploration. Sean also has had an unconventional path, from the US Marine Corps through to ancient language study, through to working in an orphanage in India and practicing law, but now lives in central Illinois with his children and grandchildren. BJ once charged a jaguar with a bag of trash to save a little dog. The jaguar ran, the dog survived, and BJ was left standing there holding a big bag, wondering what plan B would have looked like. His latest novel, Doomed and Damned, A Blasphemer's Guide to Getting By, features that same sort of reckless stubbornness and questionable decision-making as his main character Simon, a sharp-tongued everyman whose world gets absorbed into a system-controlled multiverse of competing gods and collapsing realms. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. So, what class of Keanu Reeves? Sorry, I'm just looking at that graphic and
reading the notes ahead. I love it. So I thought we might just kick off. Just tell us how you doing. You know, what are you guys working on? We know you guys have got books coming up, but Sean, why don't you tell us how things are going and how you're feeling about Exploration's drop and everything else?
Exploration is doing great. I cannot complain. I still stress about every new release, but it's a lot less than it used to be. This is book 65, so there's a lot out there. But yeah, I mean, this series has just done amazing for me, and I was really pleased because the pre-orders were still up in the 1,100-1,200 range, which tells you that there's a market for it, people still wanting it. I figure if you're willing to pre-order something, then you actually want it. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. But what I'm working on, so I've actually written 4 different projects this week. I wrote a 12,000 word short story that's going into an anthology that's supposed to be lit RPG horror themed, so it'll be interesting. The people feeling the horror in it, though, are the invading orcs, not the main character. So he's more the monster than they are, which is going to be fun. I've also been working on Welcome to the Multiverse 11. I have been working on Magic Eater 5, which will be the final book in that series. And I have been working on a new series that's going to come out in July. The series title is going to be Apprentice of the Past. And I'm super hyped because as far as I know, I think everything's going to be locked in. We've got Kate Reading and Michael Kramer as the narrators for that. And they would be well known from like Wheel of Time and Stormlight Archives and things like that.
Very nice. And you've obviously got 9 kids, and I was just curious, how is having 9 kids sort of affected your approach to life?
So to be fair, only 2 of them are under 18 now. And we have 4 grandkids with 2 more coming this summer. All of my kids except one daughter live within half an hour of us, and she lives 3 hours away in Chicago, so it's not bad at all. I mean, it was a huge family. It was crazy. It was a level of insanity that I don't think we really appreciated until after it was over and we were finally able to catch our breath. Now we just sit there and look at each other and say, how is it that we're so tired now, but we are doing a fraction of what we used to do, so.
Very nice.
It
Yeah.
it makes your life very not you focused. There's no way to be focused on yourself when you have 9 kids.
Well, someone who's not very focused on himself is BJ Webster, who once charged a Jaguar while working in a Caribbean bar. And I'd be very curious to hear what happened, how you were doing, and what's going on with your stories.
Oh man. Yeah. I went and I got married, and then we went down to Belize on our honeymoon, and then got an offer to lease a bar on the Caribbean beach, and we were like, well, we got to do this, and so just learned how to run the bar, and then yeah, that whole situation happened when I was just closing up the bar for the night, and just Jaguar came out of the woods and attacked the little compound dog, and everyone was freaking out, and I just decided to run forwards, and then I got to it, and I was like, okay, whack, and then it just like it got off the dog, it stared at me, and I stared at it, and I was like, cool, and then it ran into the jungle. So that's kind of like it was a very interesting situation. I did a lot of really stupid stuff down there. I would like swim out to the reef and go spearfishing. It was a really good time. But then I came back, and then I came back and did pretty much every job under the sun. I've done, everything from like food service stuff to like software engineering for an insurance company and a bunch of other stuff. And then I decided to write during the Royal Road has a writing month where you're supposed to like pump out 50,000 words. And I had like gone back to school to get my stupid piece of paper. And then I was like, I need a break from calculus. And so I wrote the first 4 chapters of my story on there, and then just didn't think anything else about it and had to go back to real life. And then people were like, hey, where's chapter 5? And so then I just started writing and got pretty successful on there. I hit Rising Stars, and I think I've got like 1,600 followers now, and like a bunch of people that read it. And so I've just started to pursue this full time. I just finished the first book of that series, and I'm working on second book, and I am actually launching another series in 5 days. So, and been just kind of balancing, figuring out how to write a whole series and go, running into things like my first book ended up being like 300,000 words, which has been fun to coordinate for doing like, I'm releasing it in July to Amazon with an audiobook. And then I was like, oh, wait, that's a lot of money for an audiobook and for an ebook.
Quickly.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is going to have like 30 hours of runtime. It's fine.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, there are obviously options on audio, and there's one option that we can talk about off that I think is actually more profitable than self-publishing.
okay.
I'll talk to you about the numbers off camera.
Sure. So I'm definitely new to the genre. I when I was in school, so I got into LITRPG through reading Legendary Moonlight Sculptor, and like I think most LITRPG fans, a lot of them won't know that story, but it's kind of like the birthplace. I think it's like it spawned a lot of series and authors off that story. I think at least it did for me. And then I was doing Uber at night while going to school. And so I sorted Audible by most hours inside of, per credit. And then I saw LitRPG and I was like, wait, I used to read that, back in the day. And so then I just started listening to, LitRPG after LitRPG. And so kind of how I came back into the genre.
And LITRPG really does offer excellent value for money in general on those Audible credits. I think, and I really encourage anyone to take that Royal Road challenge. It's a really good idea. 50,000 words can seem daunting, 50,000 words, or as Sean probably calls it, Tuesday. But that's one about
it's not Tuesday, but that is my weekly goal. So I don't always hit it, but
yeah.
But yeah, why don't we start with a question? So the question I have been submitted this week was from our favorite segment, what class are they? And this is for what class is Keanu Reeves? It's well documented Keanu Reeves doesn't seem to age. He has high charisma, and he's even considered to have very proficient combat skills when he was in John Wick. He actually, the way he used the gun was commented as being very professional. Jean, so Keanu Reeves, what class is he? Hybrid class, if you had to put him in one?
If I had to put him in a class, he just doesn't strike me as the fighter. He's more like a 1E assassin. But there I'm showing how old I am because I actually played D&D first edition.
I would honestly put him as like some hybrid of like, he's obviously magical in more ways than one. And so I'd put him as like, because he has like the ability to fight, but I would put him as like some type of wizard or mage that has the ability to do melee fighting. Because it just reminds me of like, and this is totally just like an off reference, but like in Overlord, it's there's an anime where like where Ainsun Gal is this powerful sorcerer and he like cosplays as a adventurer and an actual soldier. I feel like Keanu Reeves is holding back all this superpower, and then he's just like, "Oh, I'm totally a fist fighter," but secretly he's a magic user.
I think more than class, the better description would be what race is he, and he's clearly a vampire.
That's right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's not aging. He's got lots of charisma. He's deadly. Can move stealthily. You know.
Yeah, I can see that.
Anyway,
so I think he's the world's. If I throw back to Point Break, he's the world's best surfing vampire, also, which is a problematic endeavor, but can be done at time. I have another topical one for you, given the time of year. So, what class is Punxsutawney Phil if he was in LITRPG? He can change the weather. He has ability to predict the future, although if you look at the numbers, he's not that great at it. I said it here, I called out Punxsutawney Phil. Come for me, fans. Large adoring masses. Does he have a lot of charisma? Is he a shape-shifting druid, a spirit beast cultivator? What do you guys think? What class is Punxsutawney Phil?
you want to go first, BJ, on this one?
Yeah, sure. I don't know why my brain immediately jumped to Warlock, and he just has his deity as someone to deal with the weather. I don't know.
Fair enough. I mean, I think it's easy to say that he's some kind of druid something, but in LITRPG, we get to shape our classes to be very specific and very specialized. You know, he's a groundhog, so that's similar to squirrels. I've got a lot of squirrels in one of my series, so they're very deadly. So I'm thinking he's some kind of rabid druid. So
Very nice. And I think that actually leads nicely to one of our further segments. So we've got what class are they to Am I the Arsehole? Am I the Arsehole? I got given stats and classes that end up in a fight with giant mutated squirrels. I used to love the friendly guys who bury nuts everywhere to help our forests, but now I hate them. Am I the Arsehole? What do you guys think?
well, again, for me, it's easy because Silas in Welcome to the Multiverse, the first monster he fights is a mana mutated squirrel. And it nearly eats his face off. And, you know, so, and then my editor who formats the paperbacks started putting little squirrel insignias in the books. So, yeah, I don't think he's an asshole at all. I think he's really seen through that little cuteness ploy that the squirrels have tried and has realized exactly how dangerous they are.
Yeah, I'm going
What
with
about you, BJ? You're an expert at wrangling animals, by the sounds of it.
I'm going with he's not an asshole, because like I also have cute little animals that turn into flesh-eating monsters because I have bunnies, and so bunnies and squirrels, they're like the same thing, big old rodent-like creatures that they're too cute, and they've got to be hiding something.
Okay, so another topical one, given the time of year and the media coverage, is the movie Groundhog Day a lit RPG? This is from our segment where we look back at things in retrospect and consider if they're lit RPG. So Phil Collins is clearly stuck in a time loop, maybe a regression portal fantasy, where he must grind skills such as the piano, ice sculpture, French poetry until he achieves the correct moral alignment to progress. He sort of min-maxes social encounters, memorizes NPC dialogue patterns, and eventually optimizes his build for the good ending. And I would argue that maybe it's lit RPG, just can't see the system due to some sort of blindness or error in his build. What do you guys think? Groundhog Day, is it a lit RPG or are we on the wrong track here?
Oh man, that's a good question.
It has been a while since I watched Groundhog Day. I just sort of caught it on YouTube due to the Punxsutawney Bill stuff going on at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't realize there were going to be so many Groundhog Day questions. I would have studied up. I would say it's more progression fantasy than strictly a lit RPG, if that makes sense. As far as the difference goes, it's less game-like and more just he's progressing as a person and growing stronger socially. But I wouldn't say there's any real game-like mechanics in the strict sense. I'm going to argue technicality here because
I mean, I would agree. I would agree with that. I think the only game-like mechanic that you could stab at is respawn. But that's a temporal reset. So progression fantasy for sure. I'm a purist when it comes to what is lit RPG. I don't want to be a gatekeeper, but to me, it must have specifically stated stats, skills, spells, something. Otherwise, you can call it progression fantasy. You can call it game lit, but I guess I feel like if we define lit RPG to just mean everything, then it doesn't mean anything.
let's say it's cultivation. That's what it is, actually.
Cultivation.
There you
There's
go.
so many
I
things you could put under that umbrella.
I can see that.
Okay. We have one final Am I the Arsehole? This is from a throwaway account on Reddit. Am I the arsehole for not being traumatized enough when my mentor died? My mentor, 47-year-old male, died dramatically in my arms after a battle, giving me a whole speech about believing in myself. The thing is, I'd only known him for like 3 weeks. He was fine, I guess, but we weren't that close. Now everyone in the party expects me to go on a revenge arc, and I'm just not feeling it. I said, that's sad, and moved on, and our ranger called me a sociopath. My sister says I should at least pretend to have a dramatic flashback during the final battle. Am I the arsehole? Throwaway account for reasons. What do you guys think? I think I've seen a trend in, a counter trend in lit RPG and fantasy where people get into these scenarios and they just want to go farm, they just want to go run a ranch or something like that. I think this guy's not the arsehole, but I'm on the fence.
I mean, the extent of grief has to be measured by the extent of the relationship. I'm sad every time I read a news story about somebody who's murdered or whatever. I mean, nobody wants that to happen to anybody. But there's no grief happening. I don't know. I don't think they're an asshole for not wanting to go on a revenge arc for a mentor that they'd known for 2 weeks. So,
Yeah, I'm with him. I'm with Sean on this. I I think 3 weeks. Well, I think it just could depend on the situation too. But I do think that 3 weeks is like, I'm not going on a revenge arc or going to, threaten the safety of everybody around me because somebody died. And it's like, especially in, I guess, when it comes to like lit RPG and stuff, there's a lot more stuff going on. So it's like, I don't know. I would be like, wow, that sucks and that's sad. But then it's like, but we need to do the other things.
Yeah.
So maybe it depends if it was his fault or something,
Yeah.
Then there's guilt.
Why don't we move on? We usually like to ask you guys if there's a topic you're passionate about, sort of talk about. Would you like to see if you have any advice for new authors? Anything worth listening you would offer to budding lit RPG authors or people sort of struggling on their first book? Why don't we start up with that? Maybe DJ, tell us about what advice you offer to new authors or people just starting to write.
I think the biggest advice I could give is just write the book and go and do it. And I know that sounds like maybe a little simple, but I sat on the fence for so long with writing because I had written before and I had done gotten rejected from traditional publishers for like fantasy and sci-fi and other stuff. And then I just had all these ideas, but just kept sitting in idea phase. And I've learned so much more from just pushing forward and getting like as the book has gone on, like there's so much I've learned about myself, about the story, about writing from just going from beginning to end. And it's really daunting, but you just carve out some time on every day, and momentum is a huge thing. Like if you don't write every day, it's really hard to keep going. Even if it's just 100 words. It's like you kind of have to always be going. The times I've always had like where I stopped or had trouble like getting writer's block has always been when I haven't been consistently writing something every day. So, and I know that doesn't work for a lot of people, but
How do you feel about the concept of the minimum viable product? So not necessarily saying you would publish the minimum viable product, but encouraging people to produce the minimum viable product. And then they say, okay, I'm done with that, but I'm going to make it better. But I at least have something in my hands that is a semi-completed product. I feel like it's something easy to approach that.
I think that especially with writing, it's hard because I feel like the minimum viable product is the first book, like beginning to end is the book. And there was actually a Reddit post asking about people were like, well, when do you know when to cut away from a story? And like when it's not going to be successful, when, you know, you're just wasting your time. But the beginning, the middle, and the end, they all have their own problems and they all have their own things. You have to find the solve, how you solve it and how you get through each section of the story. And so I think beginning to end, what the whole book is the thing. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to go to 300,000 words. You don't have to go to 500, 200. There's no set limit, but I really think just getting words on paper and going beginning to end is like, should be the goal.
So I was going to say, and I'll try to add something else. So I add some diversity, but words on the page is always the thing that I say to new authors. You can't edit a blank page. You can't world build a blank page. You got to get stuff down there. And as all the fantasy authors and all the fantasy author groups I hear say, I've been world building for 3 years. Okay, great. That's fabulous. But you know what? As soon as you start writing your characters, your world may shift and change a little bit as your characters go around and do stuff.
Mine did.
I mean, I equate writing LitRPG to writing, or to when I was DMing games. And I've been the forever DM for 37 years or something like that. And my characters don't listen to me any better than the players did. They want to go off and do their own thing. I really believe that you need to have a firm idea of who your main character is, with the understanding that people grow and change. And then once you've got that idea, you can start shaping the world. And you know, what are they going to do? It's not what would Sean do in this situation. It's what would whatever character I happen to be writing do in that situation. So again, words on the page. I think BJ was right on with that. Beyond that, I would say that perfection is the enemy of good enough. And I mean, unless you are the lottery winning freak of nature, your first book is never going to be the next great American novel or whatever it is. It's just not going to be. You're going to grow from that point on. So readers would rather have fun stories than have perfectly polished prose. Doesn't mean you shouldn't care about prose. It just means the story, the characters, they lead, and the prose is just a tool. So don't get caught up in trying to turn every perfect phrase and edit, re-edit, rewrite. Again, in those author groups, I hear the people saying, I'm on my 4th rewrite. You know, okay, well, that's fine. But so basically, I could have written 4 books in that period of time. You know how much better I would have been by the 4th book than I was on the 1st book. There you go.
So I think there's this idea that I've talked to a few people about, that an 85% written book that never gets published is in some ways no better than a 10% book that you never publish. In terms of like, there's no value of, like, you're not able to monetize it unless it's a royal road. Like, if you're dealing just in Amazon terms, that book didn't make you any more income than the 10%, didn't attract any more readers. It does maybe teach you about craft writing, that extra words, but the idea that until you publish it, it hasn't converted to crystallized value, even though there's some skill training in writing that book, maybe 80% of the way there. And I think people can get a bit stressed about trying to push from that, like, last 50% or last 10% to make sure they get some value out of the book. How do you guys approach that? You've written so many books now, sure. That I don't imagine actually affects you, but like, and BJ, you're on Royal Road, so it's sort of one chunk at a time. But what do you say to those people who are sort of like, they get to 80%, they're just like, I just need to finish it. I just need to finish it.
I mean, there's a whole process involved in this, right? Of how is it that you're going to finish something? How is it that you're going to motivate yourself for it? Each of those things add up into this, right? And so I guess, for me, my motivations started out really personal. It was working through some stuff for me for writing. And so pushing through to finish something was part of that process that I needed to go through for myself. We had a daughter die, and I went through, a lot with that, obviously. And writing really helped me process a lot of that. Now I have to finish books because I need to pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
So there's different motivations at different stages, right?
Do you know where Life in Exile come from, or was that a different book that sort of helped you process it? And we don't have to go into it if you don't want to dig too much into that.
CJ, you're breaking up there for me.
Sorry, mate. I'm in the study, and the Wi-Fi intermittently cuts out. Yeah, was Life in Exile your first book, Sean?
Was my best book? I'm sorry.
Which was your first book? Was it Life in Exile?
Yes, that was my first book. Correct. And that was me reading LitRPG, loving these isekai stories, but it's always some single dude going off, and that's not my life. So I thought, okay, so what if I got to do this? Because the idea of being isekai'd away from my life in 2019 sounded pretty awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
But what if I was isekai'd with my family? So yeah, it just built from there.
We'll probably try and wrap up. Is there anything you'd like to mention or drop?
Yeah, I've got a demented version of Dumbledore who's going to run around and cause chaos and try to get back to Earth. That's my new story. It's called Will of the Wizards, and that's coming out. And I am speaking of, Sean saying about rewriting, I totally didn't rewrite the first couple of chapters. But yeah, that's what it is for me right now. I'm just getting through those.
To be clear, I'm not saying there's no reason to ever rewrite something. Just
no. I get what you mean. It is perfection kills it, and I totally get what you meant. What you said about, like, as you get towards the end, it's like, it can get really stressful, and then you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I should rewrite. I rewrote my ending multiple times and like stressed over it, and then finally it really sucks, but you just sit down and you just write.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it every day.
I started writing my first book on May 21st, 2019. And on Labor Day of 2019, I sent samples to Aethon and Moundale Publishing. And Steve Bilo from Aethon messaged me back that night, and by the end of the week we were signed up and moving forward. So May 21st to Labor Day. But my family was taking care of my 92-year-old grandfather with dementia, so I was sitting up at night writing because he needed somebody to sit up with him.
Mm-hmm.
You said earlier, BJ, about writing every day. If not every day, I'm kind of down to 5 days a week, or at least that's my goal now. But you need to build it like a muscle. And I set my initial goal was to write 300 words a day. And then it was to write 500 words a day. And before I went full time, I was trying to get between 1,500 and 2,000 words a day. And I do it over lunch, and I do it in the morning, and I do it late at night. You know, and that's how you get it done. It's really, I'm not in everyone's shoes, but I really want to think that for the most part, everyone can carve out a few minutes a day to write 100 words if that's what it takes.
I was working full time when I did the 300,000 words, and I woke up at 2 a.m. every morning and wrote from 2 to 6, and then went to work, and then came home and had to go to sleep by 8 p.m. But it's, I did that for 5 months. So,
and for people who want to be an author, it's going to just require that little bit of extra.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, BJ, you wouldn't say something.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's like everyone. If there was a shortcut, trust me, everyone would be using it. Everyone's like, how do I be better? It's like, read more, write more. I don't know, man. That's if somebody figures out a shortcut, please DM me, like message me, please.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom and for answering our audience questions. And you guys have a fantastic day. We look forward to seeing more books, more stories from you guys. And yeah, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.